There we go.
Do we want video? Did we click the video button off for some reason? There we go. All right. It is Wednesday, July 16th at 6 p.m. in the Mallet Hall in Pownell, Maine, kicking off the Pownell Planning Board meeting for tonight. Guess I'll call this meeting to order. It's the first thing, or do we, what do you recommend, Marcia? We do secretary's report and then do
Becky said the very, very, very
Very,
first thing we have
very
to do is
first thing.
elect the chair, and secretary. So you can entertain. Yeah, I forgot. I'm supposed to remind everyone to talk to the mic and come up to the mic. So I think you can entertain motions for nomination of chair.
As Marcia said, I entertain a motion for nominations of chair. I know that Todd was willing to be chair or co-chair again. Marcia, do you want to?
I nominate Todd Mellon as chair.
We have a second.
I second.
And I guess it's time for discussion, including whether there should be a co-chair.
What she said. I asked Todd if he wanted to be chair and or do the co-chair again. He seemed inclined towards the co-chair thing, but was not necessarily expressed adamantly one way or another. But I'm happy to be co-chair again if we want to do the co-chair route, or if someone else wants to be chair or vice chair or co-chair, please speak up.
It's all yours if you want it.
Yeah, I second your nomination.
Yeah, just because we've only done this for a year, I'm happy to continue for the next year, just to give us a little stability, before we make, if no one else has, if there are no other options, I think it's a great thing to just stay stable for another year.
So do we have a motion to do co-chairs again this year and have Todd be co-chair?
So I guess I amend my motion to elect Orion Breen and Todd Mellon as co-chairs of the planning board.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? All right,
Motion passes.
motion passes.
You have to.
Now we have the secretary. Do we have nominations for secretary?
Willing, I will nominate. Okay. I would like to nominate Marcia Bowen again as secretary.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
My pleasure. Do we also, is there a term thing as well?
So Mercedes just signed her oath of office, and Todd will be signing his. Becky has it downstairs. So those are the only two term limitations. They're re-upping. Can't say it right.
Do we need to vote that we accept extending?
No,
their
the select,
terms,
they
or-
serve at the pleasure of the
Great.
select board. Board has nominated them.
Sounds good. I personally thank you both for your continued service. It's been a pleasure serving with you, and look forward to another year of fun on the planning board with you both. All right, shall we move on to the secretary's report and the approval of meeting minutes for July 16th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes, June 18th. As amended.
July 16th?
No, they're June 18th.
Oh,
Did I write July? June 18th.
yeah, that makes sense.
Me now.
Discussion, corrections?
As amended. As amended, yes.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Looks like we don't have old business. We can move on to new business. The lot density checklist for conservation subdivision ordinance. Someone like to give an overview of?
Yeah, I did send that out this morning with Brian's careful edits. If everybody would like a copy in paper, I have that as well. I think as we talked about at the last meeting, I think it's easier to edit something that is already on paper than it is to come up with something. So I'll send those around. Brian also prepared a kind of chart. I do not have a color printer, so it's not as pretty. So if you have it on your computer, it's probably a little bit better. But I think one of the things as we get into this now, I think my exercise of going through the checklist, looking at a checklist that Bill had done, and then I think Brian might agree, we realized how many different parts of doing this are truly, they're truly in the ordinance, but they're scattered throughout. So it is hard for an applicant without a clear checklist right to this point to find everything. And then I think we need the CEO's help to find a couple of missing data points or references. But I'll open it up for discussion and comment.
Bend you on following the breadcrumbs and creating this, both of you, because I realize it's in a lot of places. It's very difficult to follow. And one thing I noticed is that there's the table of residential parameters that is referenced under the RB. It needs a good reference, go-to reference, so that somebody reading through this can go right to that, the table I'm talking about. So they can go right to it. And it's, instead of it being buried under the RB section. But otherwise, I think you highlighted a question about the driveway that we should talk about, and also this diagram. I mean, it's great. So I think it's a great point to start final discussions.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, in that table, I don't even think it's supposed to be part of RB. It basically, it looks like it's part of C5, but it's not. It's like a standalone thing at the end of that. So it really should be 504D, basically. And then there's a driveway question, which I had put in there, but there's one other one as I was looking at this again after I sent this back on bullet 2 and number 1. When you're subtracting the total unbuildable land, we put wetlands and slopes greater than 20, which are obvious, but I think I saw somewhere right of ways and easements are also unbuildable, so we should probably add that. And that kind of ties into here. I think we'd always said you need 600 feet of road frontage, but I think you really need 660 because the road needs a 60-foot right of way. It's a 20-foot road with 20 feet on either side. So technically to get your 90,000 square feet, you're going off the edge of that easement. So to get lots 1 and 2, you need 660 feet, assuming that's all 100% buildable land. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I remember that we discussed this back when we were developing it, but I cannot recall how we came out on you know, if we thought it was okay that it was 600, knowing 60 would be used up by the road, or if we want, if the road then forced an additional 60 feet onto it.
Can I ask Brian on that point, because I think these are corner lots that you're talking about, don't they only have to have 300 feet on one road?
Yeah, the lot itself does, but I guess what I'm saying is just there's the right of way, the extra 40 feet around the 20 feet of road. Does that eat into your frontage?
I don't,
I know what you're saying, yeah.
I don't, I think in some ways,
Because
It
these
should.
lots, oh, sorry, Brian, sorry.
Well, even if that were like, if you only had this, just
Yeah.
lots 1 and 3,
Yeah,
right, you would need 600, you need 360 feet, I think. You couldn't just have 300 feet. You need to have that 60-foot right away for the road right against the edge of your property. And then, you'd start your buildable area off the inside edge of that 60-foot right away. So that eats up 60 feet of road frontage.
but before you built, you did have 600 feet of road frontage. So I would think if we really wanted them to have 660 feet, that would be in the ordinance all along.
Well, I think it is. I was trying to find that. I didn't have a chance to go back and see exactly where I read that, but somewhere in here it talks about unbuildable. It lists right of ways and easements.
Bill, do you have like a primacy of those things, like a logical order of those things?
No, but let's say you only had, 240 feet on the public road. You can still put a private road in, you get your frontage on it, but.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, to get your first lot would be having more than 300 feet, in order to get the 90,000 square.
Right.
Right, you need to,
Well-
you
Well, yeah, I mean, so question one, you could get your road in, but then could you get a lot? Right? So if you're sandwiched right here with you only had 300 feet of road, and you had to put the road in, you wouldn't be able to do the back lot because if this were your only 300 feet total of frontage, you'd have to go back up this road to get more square footage, which would cut off your 300 feet for that back lot. So you'd be stuck with one lot. So I'm saying it's more applicable to getting your 90,000 net.
But isn't it people probably asking you, you can have to go up to 1,000 feet, like.
Well, that's only once you're doing conservation subdivision. If you're doing just a minor subdivision, you can't go past 600 feet.
With this drawing, they're not even getting road frontage off of the public road. They're getting 300 feet of road frontage off of the private road.
Right, but if you need 90,000 square feet for the second, or you need 300 feet of frontage for the back lot. So what I'm saying is if you're pinched here with only 300 feet and then you lose 60 feet because of the right of way,
But
you're at like, let's say 80,000 square feet. So you have to go back.
yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people, from what I can tell, the road frontage is kind of the limiting factor, and a lot of people, they'll have land farther from the road that then they could get their 90,000 square feet. Like, they don't have to have exact square lots like this in order to achieve their.
No, that's my point.
90,000 square
Right. So what I'm saying is if you could go back, if you had unlimited space this way, but you're capped at 600 feet here and this back lot 3 needs 300 feet of frontage here.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to push this lot back. You're gonna end up with, let's say, 225 feet of remaining frontage on this for lot 3, which means you can't put it in.
No, you don't, but you're not, because you can have a diagonal line and you get 300 feet here, and this guy is taking.
No, but I'm saying in this scenario where like the line is the edge of that road, you only have 300 feet of frontage. That back guy still needs 300 feet to get lot 3.
But this is 600 square foot road. Right?
Right, but if you only had 300 feet and you're pinched up against it, so the question is just, do we count, are easements unbuildable? If so, that really impacts your frontage and limits getting to your net 90,000 for those front lots. Right, your front lot, if you want to get a lot behind the front one, you can only use the first 300 feet of frontage. You have to leave the back 300. And if you're pinched into a corner like this, you're not going to get it if it's unbuildable. And so that either knocks this lot out, or you have to go back and you kill this lot. So it really impacts your count. It has a huge impact based on your frontage.
This diagram is optimum, which could get
Right, and then I kind of did on the right, I did this scenario where you have 15,000 unbuildable. So now instead of 300 feet, you've got to go to 350 feet because you can only go sideways for the front lot if you want the back lot. That's your only option. So you need more frontage.
You don't need that much more frontage though. If I was messing around with diagonals, and if people go back, you don't need a ton of frontage. You get all your acreage by going straight back. So like, if you're not looking at square lots and you.
All right, well, so that scenario comes to the other question of can your driveway be off the public road? Because your two lots left and right would have to have a driveway off the public road. Right?
Yeah,
So I think we've always said, you put the road in, you can have this corner lot with 300 and 300, but your driveway has to be over here. It can't be here. So the way your scenario would be in those two outer lots would have to be coming off the public road, which that's what we were trying to avoid. So you'd have a driveway entrance, you'd have driveway entrance and then a 20-foot public road. So you'd have 3 road cuts in 600 feet.
yeah.
Or 660 feet. So I think what we were trying to avoid was that, which would say you do have to come in off the private road, not the public road when you're doing these subdivisions.
We have that written somewhere?
I thought we looked at that last time. I'm trying to find it.
But it came up, I'm not sure we ever found it. So
Good discussion.
Yeah.
Tim mentioned.
I'm wondering if some of these if this is the kind of stuff we want to run by North Star in terms of the sequencing of some of this. In terms of, one, did we actually state it in the ordinance? And then kind of what are they seeing? If we can't decipher it now, that sequencing of, are you looking at what exists versus once I build, this will be the existing? And because I think there's a little bit of wiggle in there. Because the road's not there yet.
well, and this road doesn't even matter. And this is just the conceptual.
Right. Right, but the private road isn't there yet.
Right.
So is that 600 before we touch anything? That's what I'm talking about. And then my understanding on the driveway thing was any new driveways have to be off the private road. Which is where we got into in one of our recent ones, we saw that standalone driveway coming off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
in that
thought
corner.
we couldn't.
Yeah.
Well, even in RB, I mean, I just flipped like yard requirements, it says the front setback is determined from the edge of the road right of way. So even setbacks are off the edge of that 60 feet, not off the center line of the road.
Can you give us your page number, Brian?
43.
The private road thing is weird though, because like, if you have somebody who wants to do a different kind of subdivision, where maybe they have one road with 3 houses, and then like, kind of that example of, oh, they want one house way over here, then we're calling that like a second private road, and then they can't put one house over here off the main road. They have to put everything on, a new private road. It makes it less versatile, I guess, and it's
Yeah.
forcing everything to be clustered one place as opposed to spreading it around in different places.
Which was part of the premise from one perspective, but yeah, I agree. Depending on if you have a huge lot, that you might want to just have kind of one floating lot over here versus putting a whole road in, just have a driveway. So I think that's more on a case by case basis, but in terms of the conceptual, just to get there based on the minor subdivision, I think you can't do that. And,
Yeah.
and everything is dictated by frontage, and those front lots, when you do this, it's all about that 300 feet, you're capped there. So you can only go left or right, which means you have to have more frontage if you've got unbuildable area. So I think that's been kind of like the key limiting factor.
But I still don't think you need more frontage necessarily, because even if you ignore that, like, people can go backward. If they have unbuildable areas in certain places, they can still go back if they can go back. They don't need to get their extra acres along the road. It all depends on,
But if they're going for maximum count, if they have, 1,500 feet, they're gonna try to do something like this. and just smash and bang.
if they have, when they're doing the estimating how many roads they put in, they have to.
They're gonna be maximizing this and trying to get this frontage distance as short as they can to maximize the number of lots. But that's what our limiting factor was all along, was basically you're compressed here. And then if you do have the unbuildable, you've got to go wider. But, and again, so if we're saying it's from the edge of that 60-foot right of way, you're eating up another 60 feet of road, which is another limiting factor, which I think is the way it's drafted. When you chase this stuff through. Again, it's not in one spot, but it's cookie crumbs throughout.
What do these arrows mean at the top?
I'm just saying it's kind of irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter how big these backlots are. They need 90,000 minimum. So, this could end right here, or if you keep going back, you could have 2,000 feet and that backlot could be 10, 12 acres. It doesn't really matter because you can only use 600 feet of frontage. So those backlots, you're limited to only 2 lots off that road.
To me, it's like, we're saying the idea of like, in order to build a 600-foot road, you need 600 feet of road frontage.
No, well, or 660.
But I'm saying like, I felt like we were saying we
Well,
need,
no, you don't actually, that's not even true. You can build a road as long as you can get a 90,000 square foot lot in there, right? You could have 660 feet and build this road, forget these 2 lots, and you could still get 2 lots in. Right? So you can build a road and just put 1 or 2 in, depending on the width of your frontage.
then it doesn't, if they're not getting their frontage off of the public road, then there's not necessarily the public road, how much they have on the public road is not a limiting factor.
I guess what you're saying, yeah, if you couldn't get 4 the way you drew, you could get 2 with less, as long as you had, so I think it's 50-foot minimum. So you could do, with 160 feet, you could put in a road and get 2 lots. And go back. And that road would only have to be 300 feet.
We see one developed that they had like a long skinny piece and then a big piece in back. There was a name for it.
Flag lots, but that's basically what everyone's been doing with the back lots, but that's what I think we were trying to avoid here, and that's why we were saying the driveway has to come off the new private road, so you can't just have 50 feet, go way back and just do kind of like these little spidery things that just start going out at angles, kind of like you're talking about, and so suddenly you have 200 feet with 4 lots, but they're all like going off in crazy angles with like these 50-foot strips and then exploding in the back. Yeah.
One thing it made me realize is that addressing large tracts of land, the ordinance doesn't consider how you might approach that because we're limited to the 600-foot roads and the 300-foot frontage.
Well, yes and no, right? So that was the issue. That was why we did the conservation subdivision and said, all right, this is dumb. If you've got 2,000 feet going back, why are we only doing this and having all these roads and houses right in the road? Let's go back in and work the topography. So that was the entire premise of going to the conservation subdivision to say, all right, let's use the back of these lots. But we were using this to be density neutral to what was there. So again, this is just a tool to count the lots that you then go and throw all the way and back more creatively.
Constrain things because it does limit the number of
Right.
houses you can put just based on this.
Right.
So did we, well, this is, if we're getting all the 300 feet though, off of the private road, they're basically not getting any, they don't have to get any footage off of the public road. So really, how is the public road frontage a limiting factor at all?
Again, it's that front lot. If you're trying to do this,
Yeah, but I know, but I'm saying like, you could have something that goes like this. They're getting 300 feet here, this guy's getting 300 feet here. They could have like 80 feet of road frontage and someone else has this piece or something.
The issue, if you're trying to max, you're gonna start going way over here, and then now this.
Yeah.
get the next one, you're gonna start taking more and more this way. Like, this is the most efficient way to hack it in and get the highest number.
But it's not necessarily if there's something unbiddable here, then they're gonna be like, I'm getting my footage this way or whatever. I don't know. So like, there's some lots might be angled, not every lot line necessarily is exactly that. And so
Well, I
if
mean,
they're getting,
so even if you have the depth, you do this and you carry on this line, it's really no different.
it is though, because if you're going like this, you can still like get back here and you getting, like this guy's 150 feet and then this guy is like this, he's using up, like, instead of using 300 feet this way, he's only using 250 feet this way because he's getting his land by going back at this angle. So he might own here, but he's getting his 300 here. He doesn't have to get 300 this way because he's extending back. This guy can go back and not go as far this way and still have 90,000 square feet.
Yeah, and maybe people might get creative with that, but I think.
So that's why I'm saying we can't say that you have to have 600
Well, we
feet of
don't,
road
right?
frontage.
There's no limiting factor that says you have to have X number of feet of road frontage. It just says 60-foot right away, minimum 50 feet, I think, of
Yeah.
frontage.
So then, but you were saying, oh, it's really 660 feet, but it's,
Well, that's more of a question. It's not that it's set in there that you have to have it. It's more like if this scenario is how someone wanted to do it, they would need 660 feet versus 600. The base question is, are we going from the edge of the right of way or the center line of the road or the edge of the road? We have a 20-foot road. It's supposed to have a 60-foot right of way. If right of ways and easements are unbuildable, then that means we're going from the outer edge of that 60-foot right of way.
but the 300-foot frontage is off the profit road. So what does it really matter how much public road footage they have?
Again, it's a 90,000 square feet net.
Yeah, I'm saying if they can do 90,000 square feet net and they get 300 feet off this, it doesn't, like, the road frontage is not really a limiting factor. They just have to show that they can get 90,000 square feet and have the 300 feet of road frontage.
But whatever road, like, let's say they only had 100 feet of frontage on the public road and, they want to get creative like that. If there's a 60-foot right of way for the road, that only leaves 40 feet remaining on that 100 feet, which is not enough to have a lot.
But how is it not enough to have a lot if they had some weird, I mean, yeah.
No,
most likely
minimum lot width, all lots is 50 feet. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
you have to have some public frontage to get anything.
The lot width is, so then it would be 50 plus 60.
110, and if you only have 100,
And
you
then if
couldn't do a
had
lot.
2 lots, it would be 160 or whatever. So really, that's kind of hypothetical, but obviously they'd probably have more road frontage because the way their land is cut up all weird, whatnot, but hypothetically, so
Well, there's so many hypotheticals, but again, it just comes down to what are those.
but I'm saying I don't think we don't need to specify how much road frontage they have in a way. It's like,
No, we don't.
yeah. So,
So the 600 or the 660 isn't really relevant. It's just the 60-foot right away.
Yeah.
Do we measure off the edge of that? And are we calling right of ways and easements unbuildable?
Table that has the space and dimensional standards. I'm not sure this is applicable. The minimum lot size does not include access easement over the front lot. I don't know if that's the same
That
as,
means- Yeah, I just saw that too.
it's on page 45 on that table that has no title under 3. It has asterisk, I don't know what the asterisk.
So is that the town easement from the public road? Like they have the first 25 or 50 feet or whatever it is?
I think what it is saying is 90,000 feet doesn't include the easement. That's one thing that we know. So it's the only thing we're trying to do, I mean, we can establish this template and they can be as creative as they want when they calculate lot density, but the thing we're trying to decide is, does that 60 feet, what do we do about the road frontage with that 60-foot road? Is that our basic,
Yeah, that's my basic question around, basically point two, when you're trying to come up with unbuildable areas. Which again, it was specifically in here somewhere where it says unbuildable and included rights of way and easements, but I didn't write that one down. It could be anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that the road does not count as your 90,000 square feet. Right?
Yeah, including the easement. You can't build within the easement, so it shouldn't be part of it.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, when you're calculating your
Yeah.
unbuildable areas, we right away as an easement, so that would get added. But I think ultimately, I mean, it's kind of, there's two things here. There's lot density and then there's number of lots, which is the way we wrote it, which was confusing. It took me a couple times to realize that. So it's, you do two things and you take the lesser of. So step one is just the simple calculation of what's your gross area of the parcel, less your unbuildable area, divided by 90,000 square feet. That tells you how many lots maximum you could fit there. That's your density. And then you have to go through the exercise of applying the actual dimensional standards, like these 50 feet, 60 feet.
Wouldn't that always be, I mean, wouldn't the second thing always be the lower number?
Probably because of the roads, yeah.
I mean, like when
Right, but-
would, because when would, you're just taking unbuildable land. Yeah, that's always gonna be a higher number than when you start putting in roads, because
Well, especially if you limit it to 600 feet, this is always gonna be the lower number, but for some reason we wrote it that way. When you read whatever the lot density paragraph is, it talks about lot density and the number of lots. So technically, as it's written, you look at lot density, which is that first part. The second part is kind of this exercise of going to the dimensional standards to figure out what you can put in with 600-foot roads only. And then step three is basically the lesser of the two.
well, it seems like we're wasting their time to even do step one. If they just did step two, like, like,
I agree, but it's, I mean, we talk about density in that one paragraph we have on it. And I think there were density limitations, or there's, that tied back into the lower income, had to do with density and stuff. So there is some relevance, but you're not really doing anything other than the surveyor is looking at the map saying, "Oh, here's the total square footage." The program says this amount's unbuildable, and he just spits out you get a number.
they have to decide what's unbuildable for the second step anyway.
Right.
They just get a number that's going to be higher than the second one, basically. I guess that's fine. But
Yeah, it's pointless, but it's,
gonna basically be 4 lots for every new 600-foot road.
Yeah.
660 foot of frontage
maybe.
is 4 lots.
Yeah,
Assuming there's no unbuildable areas.
but
So where do we go from here?
can they get frontage? Can they get frontage off of the existing public road if they wanted to? Like, if they want to do a 450-foot road or something, and they did have a lot of road frontage,
Or a lot then. Well, yeah. I guess you could technically do for the front lot.
yeah, I'm saying if they want to do the front lots of the front road, they wouldn't have to make the back road as long if there was something that was. But most
Yeah,
people.
Most people are gonna be trying to maximize as many lots as possible, so they're gonna try to squeeze in. They're gonna try to just line it up and do that as many times as they can down the side.
All right, I think we answered the question that the road is not, counts as, doesn't count as the 90,000 square feet and doesn't count as a buildable area.
And did we find this driveway off the private road? Is that anywhere written?
Driveway of private road, oh.
One of the things, we reference the minor subdivision, but it basically says nothing.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
have it on
helpful.
page 131. Any new driveways shall be located off of new private roads only.
Yeah, but the issue there is, I think, and that we were too deep in this when we wrote this. We thought like, that's only once you flip to the conservation subdivision. Right, so that's under what, section 3, right? So that's the standards for conservation. So the problem is lot density only applies to A and B, and that's it. These are kind of after the fact that these rules apply. If that makes sense. So I think we never had that in the minor subdivision. So there's literally, minor subdivision kind of says nothing.
Mhm. I think that's where I'm getting confused because the exercise of going through kind of step one is just to get your number. Just to get your number so we don't exceed what would have been allowed prior. And then the whole concept of the conservation subdivision is that now we get to really work with the topography and the developer and say, how do we take that many lots and put them on the property that we have with the parameters that we have? So I'm not sure that, yeah, and I definitely agree with you that we've got to get those numbers straight. But I guess I'm getting stuck with, I'm not sure anything is going to look like this. Especially because even in a minor subdivision, we can extend that road depending on what's actually there, if they have it back. If that becomes unbuildable, we can allow them to push it back and all of that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm just getting like, how stuck do we have to be in step one before we actually really truly design it, which is where their real work is? Is it just getting a number and then they take that number and they start to do the real work with the existing topography?
Yeah, and getting that numbers based on basically the minor subdivision ordinance
Right.
but all references around that. I mean, so that's private roads, but only in conservation subdivisions on 131. I mean, does any of the private road
It is.
sections have the same limitation? I mean, because the idea of doing that where it only comes off the private road is we want to limit curb cuts. That's where we were kind of like talking about comprehensive plan, and everyone doesn't want to see driveway. So we said, all right, let's just do one road. And then you have the driveways coming off that.
But in the calculations, doesn't it make sense to let them calculate off of doing it off the public road? Because, I mean, if technically you breaking up your property into two pieces is a subdivision, right? And most people that, if they're doing a subdivision, really, they have road frontage, they're not gonna build the private road, they're gonna put the second house along the public road. The road frontage.
Well, then you would have flipped into what was a major. So I mean, the real question is, did major have that and do we let that slip through the cracks? Because again, the idea was not to have all these curb cuts for driveways. It was just if you're doing a subdivision, have one road that goes in. And that's the only thing you see from the public road. So I think our intent was it's only off the private roads, but I'm not sure that it's necessarily in here. So that might be an addition at some point.
Well, I think of the intent of the actual conservation subdivision you're building is to have it all off of one road as opposed to a bunch of road. But in the calculation of what you could do in the past with a minor subdivision, with a minor subdivision, you can build stuff off the public road, right?
I'm not sure.
Well, you have to, yeah, I mean, because if you split one lot into two, people aren't building private roads, they're just building a driveway onto them.
That's a single lot subdivision. It's not a minor subdivision. So that's the difference, right? If you're just doing one, yes, but if you're doing multiple, you hit minor. And I think that's where the intent was to have the limitation that it only comes off that private road.
In essence, each one of these is a minor subdivision.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes me wonder, what is the better estimate of what they could do with the land? Is it just a simple first calculation? Or is it this?
This is the key. And that's really what our intent was. I mean, I don't know why we put that reference to lot density because it doesn't matter. And this is always going to be less, I think, just because of the limitation of the road.
We had it in there because that was the original ordinance. The model ordinance had that calculation.
Well, even just this first sentence of lot density, right? Saying the number of lots shall not exceed the number of lots that would be allowed pursuant to the maximum net residential density requirements of the zoning districts in which the subdivision is located. But I don't think we even have residential density requirements anywhere in here. I think we were confusing density and lots. We were,
Well, yeah.
Conflating
lot
the
size
term.
Was the kind of density limiting factor in a way, right?
in a way, but it's not really defined as a maximum density anywhere. I guess it's implied by the lot size. But again, I think that's just a throwaway calculation in step one, the way we wrote it. But this exercise is the key where it's all about the actual dimensional requirements.
I think that first number is important though, because we're gonna allow them to shrink and morph the lot set, the frontage, we're gonna allow them to shrink and morph the lot size, we're gonna, so I think getting that first number is important because then they get to really shape it and you only need a half acre I think that's that second part. Because otherwise you could cram a whole bunch of little lots in
Yeah,
and
I
you would
guess it's-
exceed that first number with the dimensional standards, which I think we saw.
Yeah, so that would be your maximum cap, right? You're gonna come in lower with your count, but if people start pushing and saying, I want to do low income housing and bump the number of lot, I need an exception to this, then yeah, we could maybe do that, but up to that number. So I guess it is important in a way.
Yeah, because otherwise when you work with just the dimensional standards, you could get a lot in if we're only requiring
Yeah.
such a small frontage once you're inside. Which I think might have been our confusion or the applicant's confusion a couple of months ago. Is this something we need to go through point by point, really have Bill and Tim maybe go through real careful? I'm not sure we're ready to arrive at something, maybe write down the key questions that we have. I just don't want to, before everyone has had a chance to really go through it by themselves, and maybe find some of these references. I just don't want to rush anything if we're not gonna be able to get to some of our questions answered. But I think it's important to write down our questions and say, okay, let's follow them up.
I think it makes sense to table it. Although if some other developer comes in and says, I need to know how to do this, we have a working draft.
Yeah.
It's not official, but it's a starting point for them.
Yeah, if somebody came in tomorrow, we'd certainly do our best to do a good job with what we have here. But any questions we have, definitely start writing them down and Tim and I will go through it and bring it back.
I still think it'd be nice to have an actual like topographical map type of deal and like show
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Second.
Yeah, but like taking a cover like, okay, this
Yeah.
is your road frontage, this is a gully, and we draw out like, here's what is actually, the most number of roads and lots you could put in, so they can just see it and go, oh, okay, yeah, they're doing it X, Y, like, that's what they're looking for from us.
Yeah, I put that in here somewhere. It suggests that the lot density map is overlaid on the existing
Yeah.
features map of the parcel, which has all that. And that was kind of the issue last time, is the entire idea was don't take a flat piece of paper with your lines and start drawing, roads point to point and then just any little section that equals 90,000 square feet. You got to have the topography, the unbuildable areas, you got to see it all. So it's all about the net residential amount.
I think like if we made up an example one on a topographical map, that could be helpful for the applicant to see, like, oh, this is what they're looking for, and they're not including the wetlands and the slopes is 20 degrees, and they're factoring in how much frontage a lot has, and then it's a visual representation. Because, yeah, we're not actually asking for this. We're not asking for them to draw a square, which is, it's nice when you see this, but like, that's not actually what we're asking for them. We're asking for them to take the topography and.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a hayfield, you get this. If it's something different, I mean, that's what I was trying to illustrate with like this little unbuildable piece over here is like that was,
Yeah, but they shouldn't be able to do that just because you go back to the original and you can't build on unbuildable land. So
Yeah,
you can't,
exactly.
yeah, so I think that would be part of your first, because you're subtracting that.
oh, that's gonna fall on North Star and
Yeah.
Bill and Tim for the first pass to really review and just kind of make sure that it shows that and that 90,000 square feet is truly net of everything. And if it's not, go back to the drawing board.
Are we where we're at with this? Do we want to move on to the next thing and say, we like this as a working draft and we're going to review it and have North Star take a look at it?
Do we want to develop some questions tonight to do that, or do we want to wait till they look through?
Biggest one's the driveway piece, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the right of ways, we agreed. I mean, because that can stay as a question. I can send another draft and just add that in there and highlight it. Was there, I don't know, is there anything else though?
does it make it more clear here, Brian, you say, does a driveway in a subdivision have to come off a private road? Should we say a minor subdivision? Or have we kind of addressed that we hadn't, you know what I mean, just to make it clear, what question, because I think we have it in a conservation subdivision, but is the question, I thought we had an appendix on just roads.
Do.
I thought we did, yeah. In a minor subdivision, is that also true? And I'm just picturing minor subdivisions in my head and saying they're mostly coming off private roads, but I might be missing one.
And the appendix is mostly just design and engineering standards for the road. If I have the whole thing, I don't want.
I was thinking also, in the introduction of the fourth line down, see, subdivision cannot have more lots than allowed prior to the acceptance of ordinance revisions. I thought we could just say prior to June 2024, make it a little bit simpler.
Okay.
Before we leave this, I would just like to ask Bill, when you were going through this exercise as well, were there components that you noted that you think are not in here or that you've seen or that you have seen applicants kind of trip over?
Just clarify. Certainly, I was surprised even about the 600-foot limit, but that wasn't a surprise anymore. But overall, this is a pretty good job. Yeah.
All right. I'd like to give an opportunity for public to comment if they so wish. All right.
This would be your chance to do an update.
Oh. He's got section 8 if you wanted that too.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're
Anytime.
doing. We're doing section 8 now.
Oh,
Oh, great. Okay, good.
State your name.
I'm Shane Brady from Allen Road. I got the mobile home development going in on Elmwood Road. I'm running into an issue with the driveway entrance permit. Basically, the town has expressed a little bit of concern about it being on the hill. Now I gotta jump through a bunch of more hoops with Maine DOT. I can't move forward with the subdivision plan until I have the exact placement of the driveway entrance. Cause I was hoping to move it up the hill to eliminate the 11% grade going down the road. I don't think I need an extension on this point, but if it does, like it's getting pretty close to the cutoff line by the time the engineers get everything redesigned and the extra. I'm kind of at like a standstill right now. Because until I know if I can move the road, there's a lot of variables.
Do you need help from us at this point, or are you working with the CEOs?
Working with the CEOs and Maine DOT. But I had 2 meetings out there already, and they got to get some engineer from Augusta to come down and look at it. But that hasn't been scheduled yet, so I don't know how that's going. So that's
I would just like to thank Mr. Brady for keeping us informed as the board, and thank you for coming up tonight and keeping us apprised of where you are.
Thank you.
We move on to other business and the CEO update.
Okay. Yes, okay, I've got several items here. First, the impact fee review. I think you're all taking that on, correct? It sounds like there was something Monday about that. Second item, the permit fee review. Tim and I are working on that, and we'll likely be working with North Star, of course, like we always do. The ordinance updates. Tim and I are continually looking at different ordinance updates. One was actually, there's several just small updates, but still clarifications. One is on the, we discovered on Change Project regarding the site distance when you calculate how far you'll be able to see when you pull out onto a public road from a driveway entrance or a driveway or an entrance. And we've got some errors there. But like, all these things we have a document on our desktop, which we can edit, and we're keeping track of everything change rather than waiting to the end of the year. Remember last time where there was kind of a jump? It was May, I think it was, or it might have been April. We said, we had all these changes, please, review these as fast as possible. So we're logging them throughout the year. Also, this is an update for Shane. We haven't had any correspondence from Shane since last building meeting, but some concerned citizens have asked about potential safety issues with the current entrance location. Maine DOT is working with the driveway permit. Shane told them that he wants 4 units to start, then plans to expand to 14 if approved. As such, Maine DOT is processing the permit as an entrance rather than a driveway. 5 or less being a driveway, 6 or more being an entrance. For the most part, there's no big deal between the two in this case, unless a whole bunch of big trucks we're going to use that entrance. Anybody else? Okay, you've already seen Matt's letter to the Maine DOT stating that that hill is one of the most dangerous hills that our public works maintains during the winter months. The steep grade, blind hill, and the vehicle speeds at the proposed location on Elmwood Road are the concern. The grade is anywhere from 10 to 12%. The town can request a road safety audit. The contact for the City of Maine DOT is Randy Illian at maine.gov. So if there is any concern between Shane or anybody else, and there are definitely significant safety concerns with you out there, they can be called to do a road safety audit. Bush Pownell's ordinance says, driveways and driveway entrances should be designed and constructed to provide safe access to the public way. No driveway entrance or approach or other improvement within the limits of the right of way for any public or approved public road may be constructed, altered, or relocated except in accordance with the driveway and driveway entrance permit issued by the town of Pownell codes enforcement officer upon application. I can give you these notes later on too.
They're working for it with DOT now on the road.
For the entrance permit, yes.
Entrance.
What's interesting, the main DOT, and they didn't come out and say their hands are tied, but they really beat around the bush saying their hands are tied. The state, they're only, when it comes to safety, they're all about sight distance. If you can look at 35 miles an hour, if you can look 305 feet that way and 305 feet that way, you're good to go. That's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how steep the grade is, it could be straight down. It doesn't matter how steep it is. If there's, 10,000 cars a day and it's always snowy and icy, and school buses, they said, really, that's up to us and we can request a road safety audit. But as far as sight distance, and I don't know if Shane's heard anything else, but sight distance is their key
Do you know
repeatedly.
what they're gonna do in a safety audit that's different from just the site distance?
Yeah, they actually send a team out, of concerned citizens. Shane would certainly be there. The state, the police, the fire department, but actually looking at, does this make sense to put an entrance here? What are the hazards? How can you mitigate those hazards? So they actually come out and they'll actually do a traffic count. What's interesting, now it'd be interesting to see the numbers. I've been told that the Elmwood Road is actually busier than Route 9, which I was surprised, but, so it's a very busy road. And that's one of the things they'll do. They'll do a traffic, et cetera, things like that, to see, what should we do?
So when's the earliest point that we would request a safety audit? As soon as DOT completes the sightline thing and they come back with a,
I believe you could, it sounds like you can request it at any time.
Yeah.
In fact, this guy, Randy Illiman, he said he's the contact if you want to request a road safety audit.
I don't know if you remember when we talked about the Bradbury Mountain expansion.
Yeah.
The select board is the one that has to request the safety audit, and we talked about trying to get them to request it for Bradbury Mountain because of traffic and the increased traffic with the new campground. So,
Yeah.
We can't request it. I think the select board has to.
According to the state guidelines, says a town official. So more than likely would be this select board or,
yeah.
I guess.
or it could be, they would delegate it to us or something like that.
Well, just in the concern of time, it seems, likely that with the public interest that, the town would want a safety audit, that we request safety audit, as soon as possible in order to not delay the project even more than it needs to be delayed.
Now, I can request it. I'd prefer to actually have a request. Bill, could you request a safety audit? And then I'll, confirm course with Tim and the select board, just to make sure. Just to make sure I have that authority. to
I am
request it. It appears that I do.
Concerned that this could take a really long time because, DOT is pretty busy.
Yeah, yep. I don't know how long it would take. Every kind of, even, there are things that are going to take a long time. A road safety audit, a, DEP surveys, drainage surveys, a lot of things will take time. For any development, any project does take time.
So do we want, as a planning board, to have Bill say to the select board, we think it'd be good to have a safety audit? Let them know that and they can decide if they want to officially ask for it.
I like that idea. It is a dangerous stretch of road. But, I'm also sensitive to the fact that you have all these hurdles to go through.
Well, that's why I think it's better to, if we can request it as soon as possible, if we then, maybe some of the stuff can be done concurrently and there's less delay for the applicant as opposed to waiting for a later stage to then request it, and then it adds more delay.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. The sooner the better, I'm sure. I've only got like 6 or 7 copies.
Did the correspondence that the town got, did that come to the planning board? I'm not sure this is on our plate, only because I didn't see correspondence from concerned citizens. I'm not sure it was addressed to us. I want to make sure we're responding to something.
No, it
If
wasn't.
So if it was addressed to the town rather than the planning board.
Yep, 2 of them were verbal. 1 was actually an email.
I feel like in public comment we've received from the town at planning board meetings, we already had people from the public express concerns about this road. And so this is not a surprise that if additional people have written comments to Bill or the select board about it, I feel like we've been aware that, and we brought it up, that we have concerns about the road location and the safety of it. And so I'm comfortable with saying that based upon the interest of the town and us as a planning board, we think it's valuable to do a safety audit.
Okay, I'll get that moving forward. So that's, of course, regarding the development, I think Shane already knows about that there's going to need to be a drainage plan. The Elmwood Road location currently does not have drainage ditches. It's really interesting. They used to have a lot of washout problems there. So the state designed the road with curbs and a proper crown so that the water on the road goes down the sides of the road, runs downhill. However, once an entrance is installed, it is unlikely that the state or town will permit the water to drain out of the development back onto the road. So some type of ditching plan, obviously, is going to have to take place at some point. Now, Pownell's ordinance states that the entrance needs to be, and this is quotes, constructed to prevent runoff onto the traveled way. And due to the amount of impervious surfaces, which is over 10,000 square feet, the variant terrain and the steep road, cut, fill, and drainage plan will be needed. Now, things will have to, I think a lot of things can be done in parallel. For example, there are concerns over the deed. The deed provided by Shane is a quitclaim deed, which is, okay, it's legal for transfer of property in Maine. However, Shane documentation indicates that it's part of a Gardner subdivision. Tim's research with the Cumberland County Register of Deeds says that it's part of a previous subdivision called the Joseph Mitchell subdivision. Also, the property is registered as 2 separate properties and in 2 names, Joyce and Jessica Brady, as joint tenants. Therefore, the authorized agent's letters would need to be signed by both parties and notarized. So right now we have it that the deed says Joyce. It has to say both Joyce and Jessica will have to sign the property over to you.
What was their first name? Joseph? Who?
Joyce.
No, the original subdivision.
Yeah, it was originally, and I haven't checked this myself. The documentation from Shane says Gardner subdivision.
Yep.
And Joseph Mitchell subdivision.
Been down to look at the Gardner subdivision stuff. I'm still unraveling it. Just for our land.
Now, it could be our math. There are concerns over the property lines, the distances on the property lines, and the distances noted in the deed don't add up. Exactly what is correct remains to be seen. As you've seen, the application is incomplete. It needs to meet the site plan review, the minor subdivision, and the mobile home park ordinances. It also needs to meet the manufactured housing board. Some of those manufactured housing board requirements will take precedence over ours. But there are many pieces of the puzzle that need to be completed. And if you read from the last meeting notes, there are a lot of things that just aren't done or aren't even started. The package has a lot to be done. There's a lot there that is incomplete.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So I don't think this is, I don't think a road audit is going to delay anything because there's so many other things that haven't been done.
But I mean, the location of the road is key to laying out the site.
Right,
So
yes.
If there's issues, if there is site or safety issues with where the road is being proposed to be located, it'd be good to know that sooner rather than.
Right, and that would help Shane out as well. The road safety audit would say, okay, on that piece of property, where is a possible location to, for a safe entrance?
What I'm trying to avoid is in order to get the slope down to under 10%, you gotta build the ground up almost 30 feet next to Chandler Brook. And what I'm worried about is if you build that up, what's it gonna do? And if it rains hard and runs into the brook. So that's why the easiest and most logical situation would be to move it up the hill. But to make sure it's still safe and passes all the requirements.
I'd expect at the road safety audit, when the team meets out there, they'd probably look at the original location, the current proposed location, and any other location you might want to.
You're getting engineering guidance. I think that'll be very
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is once, we know if the road can go further up the hill, then the engineers can take it from there. Just kind of,
Chicken and egg.
yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah, we don't want them to do a safety audit on the road if it's not going to cover all the locations of where the road could potentially go. So I guess that's the question is, if they do a safety audit, can they look at multiple?
Sure, is it a stretcher road or is it just a?
Yeah, like, can they look at potential multiple entrances, or are they only looking at, this is the one proposed entrance and they're only looking at that is the question, because we don't want to come out for proposed entrance and only look at that when really we're already talking about potentially moving it to a different location.
I suspect it's more than just a point on the road because it's up to a 2-day event, you know?
Well, all I can say is legwork now will serve you well in the long run when you build phase 2, so worth knowing now,
right.
as painful as it is.
I know that, I don't even know if I'm gonna do a phase 2.
Yeah.
But they changed it from a driveway entrance to a entrance, and the only difference is it moved the road from 22 feet to 30 feet.
Yeah.
The minimal little distance, and then it'll give cars more from turning in and out.
I guess that's an important decision for you is, do you want to have your options open to expansion or just stick with 4? I mean, the simpler,
Right. Yeah, I'm not,
that's up to you.
there's still a lot up in the air because there's
Yeah.
so many moving parts to
Yeah,
cram together.
you're trying to do a good thing and it's very complicated, I know.
Okay, next, Stetson Farm. We haven't had any, actually until today, we hadn't had any correspondence from the Stetson farm folks. We have, just like on Elmwood Road, there are also some concerned citizens about road safety issues, and sure enough, although the grade isn't 10%, if you know that area where the Cram Farm is, it's like this, you know? So exactly where the entrance is, I haven't looked, but there are some citizens concerned about, travel. And unfortunately, I think, a little segue, we're gonna have to probably get with the road crew and the select board to see if we'll put in some of those, you're going too fast signs up. We have one now. But both on that section of the Elmwood Road and also the Brown Road is like a racetrack, Oh, yeah, everywhere it is. Oh, yeah, so today, Peter Beagle, I think that's how you pronounce it, the landscape architect for Stetson Farm project, he reviewed the calculation of lots dock that Ben Smith provided. We haven't had any other correspondence, but he said that looks, I'm going to misquote him, but it looks challenging.
What's the word he used, challenging?
What's that?
What was the word?
No, it wasn't the word challenging, but he implied that, restrictive, challenging, and he's right,
What did Ben provide him?
What's that?
what did Ben provide to him? Something
Yes.
similar to what we did?
Yes, actually, it was the original, this, you might have seen it, Guide to the Process for Section 905 Review Procedure and Submission Requirements for Conservation Subdivision, Pre-application requirements. I think you guys did that. In fact, this was probably draft one before this. Yep.
So at this point, in terms of next month, so far, nothing from your information will be on the agenda for next month.
Right. We have nothing right now unless Shane or Stetson has something
Yeah.
else.
They've got basically 2 weeks as old business to forward.
Yep. That's all. Thank you.
Do we have an ordinance review thing or fee?
Well, let me
schedule?
do fee schedule first. We were supposed to have impact fees to review tonight, which they apparently voted on Monday, but I don't have anything, but North Star's having a workshop on impact fees on the 28th before the select board meeting. It's at 5:30, so I'll plan to go to that. And anybody else who's interested should plan to go as well.
Which day is it?
It's July 28th at 5:30. It's a Monday.
Ordinance review?
Oh, no, but if you do have anytime, whether it's in the middle of the night, send us a message and you can't fall asleep and you say, oh, this is wrong, send it to us. So we'll add it to our list. That way it's in a central location as much as possible.
Yeah, this table is
That too, yeah.
foremost.
Okay, yeah.
It's hanging out in
Page
space.
45, okay.
Page 45.
That should be 504 D.
504D.
And we have letter we got from the Conservation Commission. Come on up.
So Bob Van Milligan, Hollowell Road, and I'm the interim chairman of the Conservation Commission. And we spent a lot of time working on this, and it's designed for use by the Conservation Commission to respond to a multitude of development proposals or proposal types. And the focus was on plants and animals and natural resources, but it really takes its inspiration from the Pownell Comprehensive Plan. And we thought, after we had done all this and looked at it and talked about it, that perhaps other groups could use it, other groups that are involved in any type of development issues and decision-making, modified if necessary, use parts of it, whatever needs to be done. But it would just sort of give you a little bit more of a chance to focus on things like the ecology of whatever concerns would be related to the project, as well as just day-to-day types of lifestyle changes that people might have to go through as a result of the project. And what I was here to do is just take any questions you had or comments or anything along those lines.
I went over it. I'm a biologist, and so I went over it carefully and have a lot of notes. But I think that what big picture is, we have certain ordinances, and we have state ordinances that only kick in when certain occurrences that trigger a state permit. So we have this gap. Whether it's aquifers, hazardous material ordinances from 1980, it's pretty old. So it's an opportunity to figure out of these, where would a new ordinance or an updated ordinance allow us to have some authority to evaluate proposals using some of these criteria. So I think it's a valuable first step, and I think we have to figure out, okay, what's most important and of these, and what can we accomplish that would be fair to an applicant, but also follow the goals of the comprehensive plan.
And our goal was certainly not to tell any group, certainly yourselves, what to do or how to change any direction or anything. You guys are a very popular group in our commission, so. And you do a lot of good without air conditioning, I might add. But we just thought, okay, if it does us some good in responding to development proposals and perhaps steering around some foibles that might happen in the future, maybe other committees can use this as well. And we're not intending anyone to take it at exactly what we have on paper. Simply, here's a list of ideas. These are some bullet points, and whatever would be helpful, go for it.
Are any of these that rise to the surface that you think is particularly critical of all these, or are they all equally important in your commission's viewpoint?
Yeah. It's really hard to say. Years ago, we would look at plants, animals, maybe the aquifer. Maybe that wasn't even a big thing at this point. Now we're looking at things like light pollution. And, Pownell is one of the last dark sky areas in Cumberland County, and at least in this part of Cumberland County. And what does that mean if we have a huge development in some area and what was formerly a dark sky area turns bright at night? And how does that affect people's quality of life who are surrounding it? So those are things we're thinking about too.
Well, that's something I actually really keyed into in that list. I'm wondering if that could be an ordinance change, or if that would have to get voted, but where we do require lighting for some of these subdivisions, could it be dark sky compliant? So we aren't creating a lot of light pollution, or even just more broadly, so aren't just all these spotlights when you get these clustered houses in a conservation subdivision, everyone's got spotlights everywhere. Basically it's all downlight is dark sky compliant, and you don't have all this excess light going up and out. So I've spent a lot of time in Sedona, Arizona, and they are like the pioneers in that. And it's incredible at night where it's everything, you can be up on top of a mesa looking down and it's just the low, dim glow. You don't just have this exploding light everywhere. So that would be nice, like given comprehensive plan, rural, and especially we're kind of pushing, we're rural with open space, but now we're concentrating all these houses in conservation subdivisions. It'd be nice if we could really apply that type of standard.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think anyone in the public or on another commission has ordinance examples, samples that they're interested in us looking at, or have the select board direct us to look at. I think that's helpful. There are different dark sky compliance ordinances, or I think, there's even, you can get certified at the town level. If you comply with X number of things, then you can become an official dark sky community. And so I think that's a great conversation to have with the select board, and as well encourage people, if they see an example in another community that is addressing something that you think we should address, we're happy to look at examples of what other communities have done and how we might incorporate them into our ordinances, especially if it reinforces what we have said is a priority in the in the comprehensive plan.
How granular could we get, Bill? I mean, could we literally say, like, when someone's building a house, you can't do just a a spotlight bulb sticking straight out? Like it has to be in an enclosure facing down, or is that?
There are certainly some ordinances, talking about not impacting, so many lumens, hitting your neighbor, et cetera, like that. But ordinances, to a great degree, can be enforced. But these proposals and great ideas, unfortunately, are often optional.
Right.
And they sometimes come with a cost. But that being said, worded properly, a lot of these, if not all of them, most of them, could be integrated throughout the ordinance, the entire ordinance. Would it be possible for the Conservation Commission to look for example, I mean, you'd get to know the ordinance really well. Where would this statement about aquifers fit within our ordinance? So we actually would be required to take that into consideration. To some extent, when it comes to DEP, we still take things into consideration, but we don't have to. But
Yeah.
this would actually make it right there, okay, it's like, could be somewhat of a checklist item. The wording would be have a little bit different, like how could a proposal that basically you would make us look at, what is the impact on, 50 houses, on the aquifer in that area? We don't know right now until the water's gone. So is there some way that the Conservation Commission could reword some of these and make suggestions on where they could fit within the various chapters of the ordinance?
We could certainly get on it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does.
I mean, I think it'd be amazing if they did, but us being on the planning board, it's hard enough to understand what the ordinance says. I would hate to send somebody out into the jungle unarmed. I think this is a great starting point for us to look at, and we can potentially review with North Star some of these things, as a planning board. I think, like aquifers, Marcia has already brought that up in multiple projects, and there has been good water testing. And, as part of the projects, people have to get certified from experts that, there's not going to be so much of an impact. So some of this already is addressed in our ordinance.
Yeah.
But that idea of what are, how have other communities addressed this, and what are, best practices for some of these things that we may want to adopt into our ordinances, definitely something that and as a Conservation Commission, it is easier to Google, I think, what is a, different nonprofits and associations have, this is like our draft, generic dark skies ordinance thing, and that's easier than necessarily combing through our hundreds of pages of ordinance trying to figure out where it fits in.
I think it's important that something we rarely look at are the performance standards at the beginning, which include water and aquifer protection, and it includes the fire chief approval when you say what measures are going to prevent surrounding areas from increased fire risk. Soil capacity, that's right out of the septic analysis that has to be done. Where there's a gap is, the ordinance also requires we evaluate the effects on rare wildlife and rare plants, significant vernal pools. So where the gap is that the state hasn't mapped it. We don't have any trigger that would say there is a significant risk. So that's an area that's kind of a gap area. We don't have a wetlands ordinance, so we're following the state, which is fine, but the state does allow 15,000 square feet of impact. So I know that was something in the comprehensive plan that was brought up, but whether we want to tackle a wetlands ordinance, that's a big job.
Yeah.
And it would be more restrictive than the state probably. So that's just how do they put a pin on that exactly?
Yeah.
And I also want to add something like Estabrooks or any project that has more than 20 acres of impact, they're going to go through site location of development. So that's going to trigger the air quality, intensive soil analysis, intensive wetlands wildlife. So it's those projects that are under 20 acres that I think could be sensitive to some of these potential adverse effects on all of these issues. That's, I think, where we, as a town, could come in and bolster up some of our ordinances.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And if we can do any good in terms of finding other ordinances that are helpful, we certainly will, and we'll pass them along. Thank you.
Yeah,
It's paper.
all right. We already did public comment. Did anybody have anything new pop into their head before the end of the meeting they want to comment on? We have next month's agenda.
I just gonna say, I don't have any communications other than your road safety audit that you sent around, but
Yep.
nothing from anywhere outside the community. So I don't have it, right now I have nothing else for the agenda next month. Unless we want to invite North Star to talk about.
Yeah, that's a good, I mean, well, let's do a discussion. Maybe that's a good discussion point. For next month's agenda, I mean, lots of people are gone during the summer, and if there's no pressing applicants, it's not always a bad thing to take a month off. But there are obviously lots of things we could discuss if we wanted to invite North Star to discuss lot density or any number of things. That is also an option. Thoughts?
I guess,
Maybe
I,
we
for
should also do
one-
a head count.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah.
I'm on vacation that week. Right, it's the 20th, I think, yes.
Yeah, the third.
The 20th.
When is the deadline for people to get stuff to us?
New projects is today, and existing projects is 2 weeks. People have time to get things in.
Yeah. I lean towards taking August off unless we get new materials in the next 2 weeks.
So when the time comes.
Yeah.
I will see what's out there and send you and the other co-chair draft agenda. If there's nothing on it, you guys can decide.
If we do get something, is 2 weeks enough time to ask North Star to come in for that meeting to discuss other things like,
The impact fee, I think, is the one thing that might be on the agenda.
Yeah.
After the workshop.
and what do we have to do with that? We just have to approve it?
I don't know the scope.
Yeah.
I think we'll just stay tuned. Be flexible. And Brian will be yours.
Sounds good.
Should I move to adjourn? I move to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?